got PS5. Every year, millions of these die due to HDMI failure, and millions more die of heart attacks when asking repair shops how much they charge to fix the issue.
$1 million.
Which is why we bought this. This cost me $300 Canadian off eBay, and you guessed it, it has a broken HDMI port. I've never done an HDMI swap before, and honestly, I'm not that great at soldering. So if I can pull this off, well, you probably can too. What the hell happened here? Did they glue that back together? Ew, what did they do to this? And why is there a screw just hanging out? I really don't like where this is going. Let's plug this in and make sure it's actually broken, first of all. We're also going to go ahead and plug in our HDMI. I don't know if the HDMI port is actually broken or this metal piece is just kind of bent. We'll go ahead and try. No, that goes in. But do we get a display? No, we don't. And to be honest, I don't want there to be a display because I really want to try this. Honestly, very excited to show you guys my new soldering setup. Now that we know that the HDMI is actually broken, let's go ahead and open this up, get that board out, and swap that HDMI out. Hopefully, I don't know if I can pull it off, to be honest. First things first, let's pop off these back covers. There we go. See, you can literally just replace this. Why would you do all this yuckiness? Alright, looks like someone's been in here. Not excited to see what kind of problems they may have caused. We'll pop off the other one, and it looks like there's a bunch of screws missing. Not a good sign, and this screw is completely loose. Huh. I really hope this is just an HDMI swap and not a million other things, because I don't have a lot of experience with PS5s, to be honest with you. All the tools and everything I use are on my website if you're ever curious. Unscrew. Why is the screw so loose? I swear if I find a messed up soldering job on the inside, I am not going to be happy. And now we can pull our disgusting fan out. What were these guys doing? So I'm not gonna bother removing the disk drive. Why? Well, I don't need to do anything with it. I can just disconnect it like that, keeping as much stuff together as possible. And that is part of our PS5. We still have a little bit more to go, and by a little bit I mean a lot. Look at all those screws. You really got to stay organized when you're opening up a PS5 because I mean there's screws for days. Thankfully they're all Torx screws, so you can use the same screwdriver for pretty much the whole process. So before we get this plate off, we have to disconnect everything. Oh, we'll just use a spudger because the little pull tab betrayed me. Remove, and we'll just pull up on this whole assembly. Now we can move the body aside, and we'll disconnect the power supply. This is a massive brick with most devices. This is usually outside the device. Take a look at that HDMI just on the outside without even looking at the board properly. It looks messed up. Why is it tilted like that? Oh, oopsies. Take a look at how much thermal paste there is. They really went all out on the cooling of this device, and I think they honestly did a decent job. Underneath this, there is actually liquid metal to cool the actual processor. I think we're gonna have to take this off, but the liquid metal is under this plate. I just don't really want to have to deal with any mess. We can gently lift up on the board now, and we're definitely going to... Oh. Wrong side. Liquid metal's over here. But now, the reason we're here in the first place is the HDMI port. And you can see right now it looks very mangled up. Now, my biggest fear here is that one of the pads ripped off. And what that means is basically where these pins connect from the HDMI port to the board, if the board's pads that connect the two rip off, then that means we have to line up a trace, and that's infinitely harder than just replacing the port. We're gonna go ahead and bring this to our micro soldering station and get a look under that microscope. All the contacts are pretty much off the board, but none of the pads seem to be... this pad is completely ripped. That's gonna make this job a whole lot harder. It's worth a try. We'll add some flux and add some low temp solder with our iron so that the solder turns liquid much faster. The original solder this comes with takes quite a while to go liquid, so this speeds things up. We'll heat everything up with our heat gun until we can just pop off the HDMI port. Now we have a much better look at the torn off pad, and yeah, it's bad. Because the pad no longer exists, we basically have to make our own. We have to scratch off some of the traces leading to the pad and solder the wire to that trace. It's legit 0.01 millimeters wide, which is why this is going to be so hard. Next, we have to coil up the 0.01 millimeter jumper wire so that we can be sure it's making contact with the HDMI port's pin. We'll apply some UV glue to keep everything in place. The glue is activated with UV light and hardens when you shine the light on it. We'll go ahead and clean off all the solder residue so that we can apply new solder to the board. Now we can place the HDMI port and apply heat to make sure everything makes a good connection. Before we finish this up, we have to apply solder to the anchor points because HDMIs get abused and you have to make sure they're securely fastened to the board. I think we're doing pretty good so far. At this point, I have no idea if what I did will work, but there's only one way to find out. We interrupt this repair to bring you epic product. This is a screen protector. Stop! Don't skip, because it's actually an epic screen protector. It's the Paperlike 2.1. It's super easy to apply, and once it is applied, well, that's where the magic happens. This new revised design provides you with improved clarity and visibility with the same stroke of resistance so many love from the 2.0 model. Still, don't understand what Paperlike does? Well, it's in the name. This gives you a paper-like experience so that you can read, draw, and browse without eye strain, just like, well, paper. This screen protector uses nanodots to minimize glare and light refraction so that your screen is always visible and crispy clean. It's even better when you're using an Apple Pencil, as the screen protector mimics the natural resistance paper would have. Basically, epic paper feeling on your iPad with no sacrifice at an epic price. Click the link in the description and pick one up for yourself, otherwise you'll get a paper cut. Back to the video. We'll bring this back to our other table and put everything back together, just enough so that we can turn this on. And it doesn't seem like it's working. I did knock off a few components from the board, so I bought a donor board to replace those components. What concerned me the most was this filter that I knocked off, but I soldered it back on properly. I did the same with the two capacitors right beside the HDMI port, so I hope this works. Yeah, this is way above my skill level. I really thought this would be an easy job, but it's not. Despite probably 10 plus hours of work, well, this isn't functioning properly. So back to the original question here. Should you do this repair yourself? Well, honestly, no. If there are rip pads on the board, absolutely not, but just generally, no. Unless you have micro soldering expertise, you're probably going to end up breaking more along the way. HDMI repairs do cost a fair bit, but it's definitely worth it for the expertise, especially if there are ripped pads. In this case, I think there's much more wrong with this PS5 than just the HDMI, but I learned so much along the way, and I know for a fact I can do this again fairly easily. I did lose quite a bit of money, but the knowledge I learned was just invaluable. More micro soldering content coming soon, and if you guys want to see the next video... Wait, what? Hello?